Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Event Industry News podcast, your go-to source for all things exhibitions, conferences, and the big ideas shaping our industry. Today's guest is no stranger to the global event circuit. We're joined by Dr. Baris Onay, Chief Commercial Officer. No, actually, you're not Chief Commercial Officer anymore, are you?
Used to be
Chief Commercial Officer. What is your current title, mate?
Founder, general founder,
yeah.
because I'm more. The thing is, I'm done with not done. Maybe I'll go back. You never know. But currently, it's been 5 years. I'm an entrepreneur. I call myself a media entrepreneur and a consultant. But I used to do the big jobs at corporate.
Yeah, absolutely. Back at Tariffs and others, organizations and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah.
So you are well positioned to talk about today's topic, which is actually me reaching out to you after you published a really on point and timely article, Tariffs, Now What for Trade Shows. You know, very thought provoking for me. As soon as I read it, had to reach out for you and thought, you know, we need to go deeper into this conversation, something that I think lots and lots of people globally are thinking about on an economic and obviously global scale. And it came up quite quickly in conversation, didn't it? Again, in some of the WhatsApp groups and communities that we're involved in both.
Mm-hmm.
Before we jump into all of the nitty-gritty questions, can you just give us the reason why you felt compelled to write this article?
Yeah, the thing is, of course, it's a hot topic, and I'm an opinionated person. Let's put it that way. No, but the thing is, I have a very peculiar previous experience of trade barriers being built up all of a sudden and you having a big show to deliver. I've lived through this before. It's not the same, but sort of a similar background of what we expected would happen and what really happened. This is many years ago, back when we were organizing events in Russia. And in 2014, when the first economic sanctions were put on Russia, we had a big, lots of business there. And one of our biggest shows was World Food Moscow. And when Russia got hit by economic sanctions, more than 50% of our exhibitors were from the EU. And they were no longer able to exhibit with us. So we thought that was the end, but it wasn't. So that's having lived through that, having seen how fast markets can actually self-adjust and the way they choose to self-adjust. I've lived through those things, so I just wanted to share my experience with everyone who might be freaking out right now on what are we going to do about this.
Well, let's talk about then. You know, can you provide an overview for those that maybe not so knowledgeable or haven't even looked at this yet? What are the recent tariffs imposed on April the 2nd? And what immediate impact do you think they have from a trade show perspective on international trade?
Tariffs, look, you got tariffs from different countries to different ones, although it's known, yeah? But the main shock here is that the US is generally known being a more open free trade country that you could sell your goods to, yeah? And Mr. President Donald Trump just ended that a few days ago. So this is not something anyone is currently, let's say, or this doesn't come up in scenario play, yeah? This is like a black swan event. Because everybody's used to selling to US. It's being the world's biggest market, the world's biggest consolidated market. So it's a great place to do business. And you yourself have your business there as well. And many people listening to us. It is a buoyant market that takes risks, lots of capital. So it's a great place to do business in. All of a sudden, it's not so great anymore. And the thing is, this is for people selling services, it's a different story. But for people selling goods, this might be cataclysmic, depending on which country you currently live in. Because the tariffs are like trade barriers, and the US is saying, okay, a blanket 10% on the whole world, which includes the UK, saying if you want to sell, I don't know, a toothbrush, whatever, it's 10%. But some countries, if you're in China, today, it's 104% on China. So all of a sudden, the ability of a company to sell their goods and be competitive in the US markets is completely different overnight. So markets will need to readjust. And this is not only for finished goods. So basically, there might be some people who are buying, I don't know, a cabinet produced in China and furnishing it with some, I don't know, technology and software and selling it in the US as a US product or globally as a US product. Now, the main input just got 2 times more expensive. So that big disruption, that unforeseen, maybe not totally unforeseen, but the level and the severity and the timing that has been imposed now is a total shock to the system. And for us now, for event organizers, trade show organizers, if you look, it's the 2 different worlds. If you're organizing in the US, I got different news for you. If you're an organizer that is not in the US, you got a different, maybe an opportunity to look at. But this is very unprecedented times that we're living in right now.
You mentioned earlier that, this is not the first time you yourself have been through a big kind of change in the way that, tariffs and things are introduced. And you mentioned Russia. Mm-hmm. I guess what people are really looking for at the moment is strategy. How can they navigate these escalating situations, and how can they plan effectively, whether that be, I guess, a trade show that attracts, businesses and individuals and entrepreneurs from the US to their shows to buy local goods and have them imported into that market. The US shows that obviously attract, again, companies from an exhibitor's perspective. So they're looking at revenue, sponsorships, and also potentially a drop in attendance. And then I guess there's also kind of like this other place where it's organizers not in the US, but host events in the US. And that's kind of maybe a separate topic, but I'd maybe like to get to that as like, how do people navigate that as well? Because can they still host an event? Are there going to be visa implications? All of this kind of stuff.
So let's go one by one, shall we? Let's start with an event organizer in the US, organizing events in the US. Now, the thing is, depending on which sector you're in, let's say apparel and fashion, you will have a lot of international exhibitors, coming in to sell domestically. Because the US does not really produce much apparel and fashion. That's all gone overseas. So you will definitely have a lot of international exhibitors coming in. Now, those people overnight lost their competitiveness in the markets. It's very hard for them to really keep on coming to your show with that big booth and keep finding new clients and selling their products because of these tariffs. Now, these tariffs might be gone in 2 weeks, might be here for 6 months. I don't know. But I think the bigger picture here is that the reliability of the US open market is shaken. And now that is a big strategy shift that will take smarter people to discuss. But I think if I am an international producer of goods selling to the US, I will definitely make sure that I have a plan B. And for shows in some sectors that do attract a lot of international exhibitors, they will find a hard time rebooking them on site because it's unknown at the moment. They will have a very hard time retaining them even in 6 months, maybe a year. We don't know what's going to happen. So for an organizer in the US, the biggest question mark right now is, what do I do about my international clients? But also for the domestic clients that produce and sell in the US, that production is never 100% local. There is an element of importing goods, parts, importing different things to make a product in the US, finished in the US. So basically, even for them, for their local business, this is going to have an impact on the profitability margins of those people. So they will also find that the local exhibitors that they have, some of them will really suffer. some of them will really maybe go out of business. I don't know. So it's a big disruption for the US economy from a few lenses. And if for the US organizers, what I can, in my mind, thinking about putting myself into their shoes, think of is trying to find other ways of getting international exhibitors in, not with a booth, not with but some other way. Yeah.
Am I too hasty to mention the word virtual event again? Because that kind of never really stuck and worked for the event, for the exhibition trade show market.
Refuses to die, doesn't it? Not even virtual. But the thing is, I think now I'm going to have a bit long parenthesis here and talk about what happened more than 10 years ago in Russia. Yeah. When we got hit, when Russia got hit by the sanctions, it automatically became very clear to us that those big Spanish food pavilions or French food pavilions were not going to come, because it was illegal for them to sell their products in Russia. And so they canceled, absolutely. But they are not the only nations in the world that produce cheese, wine, and seafood, So what happened is that we had an immediate reaction from places in South America, other places that naturally wouldn't or couldn't compete with the Europeans in the Russian market, saying, hey, we're here. So we found, to our surprise, that all of a sudden their product became more competitive. So they flocked and made more than the business for us than the Europeans, because in the first year, especially when no one knows what's going to happen, when everyone sees the opportunity and wants to seize the opportunity, markets need to meet face to face. So if I was an American show organizer, I would make sure I triple down on my one-to-one meetings program, because I know exhibitors that cannot exhibit anymore or find it too risky to exhibit will still want to come and have trade talks. So I would triple down on a one-to-one buyers program and launch a content program on how to get around tariffs and how to make this work. So I think through content and one-to-one meetings, you can still retain a portion of, maybe more, of these exhibitors coming. You and I are part of many different WhatsApp groups, but in one of them we had this conversation about delegate passes for visitors. People that should actually be exhibitors but cannot be exhibitors because of some, I don't know, reason. Can you find a ticket type for them so that they become visitors that are actually exhibitors? You know what I'm trying to say, So I think the best way to make this happen is to get a hosted buyer and a one-to-one meetings kind of program and invest into that to make sure that you can still maybe not rebook that booth on site, but sell them a pass that they can come back as a exhibitor without a booth and still conduct business and try to sort this out, because they will need it.
I think that's a really important part, isn't it? It's maintaining those relations, keeping those potential current past exhibitors as part of the cohort of your event, making them feel part of it, connected, so they don't miss and start to look where they can spend those dollars elsewhere and still get some value from it, and maintain that relationship with them. Yes, from an organizer, that's painful because you're not necessarily getting the $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 that you would from that particular company, but better to keep them with you as part of the show and on side, rather than feel alienated and not part of the community anymore, right?
Absolutely. And I think right now with the post-COVID state of technology, which you know better than anyone in the world, there are many possibilities to make that happen. And as an organizer, I would double down on it. I will make sure that even if you don't know how to do the technology, but just work with a partner to make sure that you launch a program of this kind, and don't wait until your show. Because your show might be like in 3 months, 6 months, I don't know. Launch that program today. Try to set up meetings between the potentially exhibitors you would lose or cannot book any longer. Make sure that you can keep them coming as delegates and get some sort of a trade program going. Because we know for certain that a company making like $1 million of sales to the US market won't just give up. Yeah, they will find a way. And so that's one bit. So for a US organizer, that's the number one thing I would do. Yeah, and also you will find when the sanctions like this really happen, because we lived through this before, and you will find that they are not bulletproof. Yeah, smart companies will find a way to circumvent these tariffs, and you know what? The administration will let that happen. Not that they're fools; they will see it, but they will, mark my words, let that happen to a certain extent, because they don't want to stop their economy either. So again, back to my personal experience of having seen what happened in Russia, I never knew that Belarus had so many wine producers. All of a sudden, they just sprung up.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like all these cheese producers from Belarus. Oh my God, how did that happen? So you will find in this, I did a world map of the Trump tariffs, and currently there are no tariffs to Mexico. Yeah. Very limited to Canada. Russia isn't mentioned at all. Yeah, so you will find that some, let's say, although they will see it, although they will speak against it, although they can stop it if they wanted to, they will not want to. Yeah, because it's nobody's interest. Yeah. So you will find you might lose some international exhibitors, but all of a sudden find some new Mexican exhibitors that want to exhibit in your show with a very similar looking product. Yeah, so those types of things definitely will start to happen because trade needs to find a way. Yeah, and really getting an iron grip is not in anybody's interest. So I think this is one bit. And the third thing I'm going to say about the US market is that I might be naive, but I really don't think that these sanctions are the intended outcome of the sanctions is not reindustrializing America and getting all of the manufacturing jobs back in America and becoming sustaining in America. I don't think it is, because it's not being sold as is. Yeah, although this might create something like that, it will take years. And no one, I think, wants to take that hit of years of economic downturn in the US. Not even the political will currently behind the president can uphold this, I think. So basically, this is more about getting people to the negotiation table and creating new tariffs. You might find that the profit margins of some of your international exhibitors will drop, but the business will not go away. So I think if you can create that virtual or non-virtual one-to-one meetings, whatever delegate pass type of stopgap program, you might find that the following year, those exhibitors might be back with booths because they are still able to sell, although with different tariffs, with like different profit margins, but the business should, and I think will continue. So that's my prediction about US exhibitions.
Awesome. Now, so much in there already. Yeah, carry on, please.
Yeah, if you are a non-US organizer, let's say you are an organizer somewhere in Europe, somewhere else, of course, this will depend on geography, but let's stick to something I just kind of stumbled upon. I did the world map of Trump tariffs, and that seems to be a cohort of countries with a baseline 10%. UK being one of them, interestingly, but UK doesn't export many goods anyway, no. But it can find itself becoming sort of a trade hub very quickly if that situation stands. But many countries in the Middle East or Southern Eastern Europe find themselves in 10% brackets. So you could argue some of these countries have really, really big trading hubs to buy on and others. So they might have some sort of positive windfall from this disruption because trade needs to happen. And trade will prosper where the sanctions are not currently hitting, and they're not hitting that particular region of the world. So I can hypothetically come to not a conclusion, but like I can see that the demand to meet in Middle East in the trade hubs of the Middle East might really start to go up, because those regions will find that people need to come together and still maybe set up shop there and rebrand and sell from there onwards to the US market if they really need to. So that is one bit of it. And for some exhibitions in Europe, in rest of the world, I'm going to leave China to the last. You might find American buyers might find it's less appealing to come and source, but they will come to talk. They need to come to talk and understand and rewire their value chains and production capacity and things like that. So you will find the same thing, I think, on the European side of things, or anywhere that the Americans go to buy goods from. You will need to get a very solid content and delegate program in place, because in the first disruption year, they will still need to come. Not maybe as big buyers, but they will need to understand how to take a position. So I am thinking in my let's say reasoning that you might have Americans coming with less of a purchasing power, but with the same weight of trying to sort this out, because they will need to sort this out. Now, that is also, let's say, the secondary, I think, impact on organizers outside Europe. And the other thing is American exhibitors to Europe or rest of the world might also find it harder to sell because they will get reciprocal tariffs. And EU is coming out with a big, let's say, reciprocation very soon. We know when that happens, all of the European shows that might be getting American exhibitors will find it that the American exhibitors will have a tough time, just the other side of the coin. Yeah. But if you look at it, every international exhibitor in the US versus only US exhibitors in the rest of the world, it's a much smaller problem. Yeah. But it exists as a problem. Now, that is I think, the secondary thing that might happen in Europe. But if you look at China, now China is a big thing, because, to be honest, this is, I think, mostly triggered between the US against China, not maybe the Europeans or not maybe the others, but this morning, because China retaliated, US retaliated again, and now, as of the time of this recording, because it might change, it's at 104% tariffs to China. Yeah, it's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, if they want to sell their goods to the US, which means there are, if you're a big organizer, there's a type of show called sourcing shows. Yeah, which are not generally finished products, but byproducts or earlier in the value chain. You go and buy nuts and bolts, electronic parts, whatever, blah, 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 and then you make up your own product somewhere else. Yeah. So those shows, mostly Chinese, most of those Chinese shows, I think, might find it really hard to get the American buyers back, because the American buyers will need to find another way. And you will find that big sourcing shows in China or anywhere else in the big production hubs of the world, let's say, let's not just focus on China, but mostly in China, might find it really hard to get the American buyers back for a while, at least, because the American buyers are now going to be buying that produce with twice the price tag. And then still go to make a product and sell in the US and then make money so it's going to be a really tough job. Now, this is the general outlay on the three parts of the world. But I think if you look at it from a long-term effects of this, now this is beyond, let's say, my expertise. Just because my expertise as an exhibition organizer stops here. I'm just going to talk about general economy and what I think this can do. This, I think, will consolidate the rest of the world as a bigger trading partner to each other. I don't know if you remember the South by South trade when that started to happen, like 10 years ago. I think you're going to find China and EU, China and other places, or Middle East and EU, these markets will need to really sit down as grown-ups and make sure that there is less friction between their own trade. Because let's be honest, the US is really big. It's just 17% of the whole world economy. Yeah, if you can sort out the remaining 73%, you might be okay. So basically, I think this is gonna create a reaction, as in which you will find the rest of the world will try to get a more integrated trade flowing among themselves, which in the end, if you're a non-US organizer, will be great, because they will also, to set this up with the first years, they will have to have so many face-to-face meetings, and we provide those. So basically, I think the leaving aside the current shock and then what might happen in America for trade hubs of the world, and even for China, you will find this will create new opportunities.
Amazing, mate. I really like the idea that you've just left us with there of the positive side of this, which could be that the bigger chunk of the world, the 73%, actually comes back stronger, and that creates more economic impact and more opportunity for our sector. Even that short term, like you said, to facilitate the conversations, to have that, to learn about these economics and the opportunities and stuff, that the trade show and events market will be there to support it. Now, we've talked about the current situation and the pain and the potential opportunities. With your experience, it'd be hard for me not to at least have a little conversation and a question to you about mergers and acquisitions, which is, the lifeblood of the trade show market, right? Are you seeing or having conversations, or have you got any thoughts and feelings on how this might affect M&A in future? They often say one person's pain is another person's profit. So could this create, again, positive opportunities for companies to acquire some shows and bolster their show portfolio on the cheap, or a little bit more effectively? What's your thoughts on that?
I think now, just a quick correction on the previous one. It's 83%, not 70%. I mentioned
83%, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, but to that point, I mean, M&A, depending on how big we're talking, yeah. If we're really talking the very big, let's say, M&A deals that might happen, the US exposure it used to be a selling point. It might not be so much anymore, yeah, at least for a few years, because it is unknown what is going to really be the discount effects of that. Now in the US, oddly, a good chunk of the big exhibition organizing market is owned by the associations themselves. Yeah. And that is going to create, I think, a situation where association shows will need to professionalize much quicker, because for those of you that might not know, the US Association is bigger in the membership than a pan-European association of any sort, yeah, in one single consolidated market. So they're incredibly powerful, and they do shows, and people show up. It's the only show that happens in that industry in the year. So it's incredibly powerful shows. Now those shows will become big forums of renegotiation and let's say resetting, and they will need to really find a way of understanding how things will be rewired, I think. But M&A in the US, depending on exposure of that current asset to international exhibitors, some might not even feel it. Yeah, it might be a sector that has like very little, 3, 4, 5% international exhibitors. But even then, the local producers, whatever it is that they're producing, might find that their ingredients or their raw materials or their I don't know the parts they need for that, whatever that is, might go up in price, meaning their profit margins being squeezed, meaning they also being a fully domestic American producer, they might also find this challenging. So I think not as bad as COVID, but also this might, I'm feeling, slow down some of the M&A until we understand what really happens. Because nobody wants to, and you remember, everybody remembers in COVID times when everything started opening up, expectations were still set at 2019 numbers. So that really did a discount effect on the number of deals that happened. But then with the recovery, it's flown back again. So I am expecting this current period of, let's say, change in the US to quickly settle down as compared to COVID or anything else. Because this is a risk created crisis, yeah. So it's easy to fix. So it's depending on political will. So basically, as quickly as this started, it can also selectively end very quickly. So it's under control, yeah. So it's not like COVID where you didn't know what's going to happen, or it's not like 2008 where the whole world crashed. Yes, this will have repercussions, but it is relatively much more under control of the US government if they want to fix stuff. So I'm not expecting a full-on COVID effect on exhibition assets valuations, but maybe a slowdown, let's wait and see what happens type of change in the market, rather than, oh, now it's down to X times EBITDA. I don't think that is going to be very easy to quantify very quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree. Baris, really appreciate you coming on to the Event Industry News podcast at such short notice and expanding on the fantastic article that you produced. We will link to this for everybody that's listening to that article. Are you going to be writing more, and is there more articles to come, Baris? Is there going to be more commentary on the situation?
I think so, because the situation is fertile ground for writing more, because it changes every day. I mean, when I wrote it, China had like 60 something. Now it's 104. Tomorrow, who knows? Maybe 200. And I think we need to really keep our eyes on the ball here and make sure that we really try to understand what the action to be taken is. But I think, again, I'm going to reiterate the point for good measure, is that you need to really double down on a delegate program or content program, a one-to-one meetings program, to make sure that you allow for a maximum number of meetings happening on your show, because those meetings need to happen. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. We've seen ourselves a marked improvement as we've introduced those programs, and they're ever evolving for us. And I think, not to make this episode about technology, but we've never been in a better place when it comes to systems and solutions to help us as organizers manage those programs, set those programs up, deliver on them effectively, and generate revenue for them. In fact, there's some organizations, which I won't name, but there are some organizations coming up with really innovative, flexible approaches to that, to organizers, to allow them to not necessarily cookie cutter everybody into the same program and maximize the profits from those solutions. They're tried and tested. Like you said, double down on them, and you're going to bolster what you've already got. Baris, where can people find you if they want to reach out for you and talk to you personally?
The easiest way is go to barisonay.com, and I'm there, or LinkedIn. Just search and you'll find me.
Once again, thank you very much for coming on, Baris. For everybody that's listened to this podcast up to this point, please do let Baris know if you've listened in. Share this podcast with your network if you found it helpful, and let others gain the experience and knowledge that Baris has just bestowed upon us. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye now.